Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, everybody inside and outside of the gender spectrum. I am Dylan Murray, and welcome to the Halloween special episode of the No Limit Wrestling Show. I am joined by my boy Xavi. We are doing it solo. I mean, it's a duo, but we usually have a guest. We're doing it just the two of us again. Um,
Motherfucker.
no, but like usually like because we're like one, like we're never
Yeah.
gonna do a solo episode of this really.
Uh.
It's just
Yeah. You got it, man. You got it.
Mr. How's the Torch over here. How you doing, bud?
What's up? Happy Halloween, everybody. I don't think this will drop on Halloween. It'll probably be before, but still, you'll get it in time for Halloween. So happy Halloween.
Hallows Eve. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. 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 To get us in the festive mood, obviously Dylan doesn't have a face cam, so I thought I had to bring the Halloween spirit. As y'all can probably tell, I have cosplayed as Ren Narita to talk about this IWA Japan show.
See, I am the devil all the time, so that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
For if anybody is wondering what the background looks like, I made it all spooky. I even put the stars out there. It's
It's
nighttime. It's
nice.
nighttime in
I
the
like it.
room. This is what took me so long. We were supposed to start 40 minutes ago, and
Yeah,
then I
and
was
he
like,
was like,
wait
"Oh
a
yeah,
minute,
I need like
wait a
10,
minute.
15 minutes," and this motherfucker took 40.
Yeah, and I was like, wait a minute, I gotta make this look all nice. But yeah, if you couldn't tell, we are of course doing an IWA Japan show, not just any IWA Japan show. We're doing Kawasaki Dream King of the Deathmatch 1995. This was not the original plan. The original
Not at all.
plan, the original plan was that we were going to do a Wing show. Wing
Hmm.
obviously had the all of the serial killers, all the horror movie mascots in their roster in the 90s.
And
But
they
I
had a Jado
picked
Ghetto main event.
yeah, they had a Halloween night show in 1993, and it featured a Jado Ghetto main event. It featured Leatherface versus Freddy Krueger. So I was like, oh, this is perfect for Halloween. I started watching it. The first six matches were all clipped to the point where there was nothing to talk
And
about.
there was only like 6 matches, so that could probably
Yeah,
tell you
so
why
there
we
were
had to pivot.
there were eight matches, and then the last two matches weren't clipped, but the last match, spoiler alert, was a death match, like a fiery death match, and uh, they didn't want to do it after like 4 minutes. Like it went to hell. It was a whole mess. They were like not prepared to do it. It
Hmm.
was just a whole. Needless to say, not worth going over. So instead, we decided why not do the most famous death match show of all time. I want to do a CW show, but Xavier shot that down real quick. So I'm gonna have to wait for some one of
You
our
see, here's
illustrious
the thing.
guests to
Here's the
suggest a
thing.
CW show.
Here's the thing. I'm all cool with watching Ruckus matches, but the ratio on us picking a CZW show that does not feature a scumbag of some sort, very, very low. Where it's just
It
not very
depends on the
possible.
year. After like 2008, yeah, it's impossible. Um, especially. But
Yeah.
early years, the scumbags weren't so much scumbags; they were just kind of drug addicts, and that's
Yeah. I mean, I guess.
um, big Pinky Sanchez fan. I hope he didn't do anything bad. I just give him a shout out. Um, but yeah, I want to do a tournament of death, but we were kind of like, maybe not. So instead,
Shouts
we
out
did
Ruckus. I
yeah,
already
shout out
said it.
Ruckus. Shout out.
He's
Damn,
he's not he's not
a
a
lot of people say his
CZW
name.
guy, but shouts out Tuco Scorpio. For real.
Oh, forever. Shout out Danny Havoc. That's my guy. One day we will do a CW show, but until that day comes, we are instead doing King of the Death Match. A little bit of background on the show. Um, this is how do I put it? Uh, I wanted to do this from before the show started. This is one of the shows that I had conceptually in my mind when we decided to do this show.
Hmm.
Because I'd never seen it all the way through, but it's obviously a pretty,
I
it's a
haven't
show
seen it
that
at all until
that
this point.
contains. I've seen the main event. Not gonna lie, the main event was a lot better when I was younger. Watching it, like
Buddy,
I thought
after
it
I
was
watched this
good.
show, you're lucky that there was a match that I thought was a fucking heater and a few. Okay, spoiler
I
alert
thought a
to
few were.
spoiler alert. A lot of these matches are clipped, and a lot like there's like at least two I think that were clipped where I was just like they should have shut the whole thing because it's probably really good. One of them I don't fault because the crowd didn't care, but still it probably would have been better in full. Uh, so like it was hard to like fully because like if we would have seen the whole show in full, probably would have came out thinking differently. But had a good time.
Yeah, I think I kind of disagree. I think the clip matches were probably for the best because I think that the crowd wasn't as into them. So I think
Still, it's just the work that was happening in the ring in the clipped portions. It was just like the whole match was probably a fucking heater. I don't care if they just don't care about it because it was probably a fucking heater.
I
There's
get
one
that.
match specifically I'm very angry that we didn't get to see in full,
Yeah,
but we'll talk about
no,
it
I
later.
agree. Um, but yeah, I wanted to do this just because I'd never seen it, and it's a cool, kind of time capsule. I'm a big deathmatch fan, and what other time to do a big deathmatch show than for Halloween? Um, if this, maybe we'll do this as a tradition next year. I will get Xavier to watch a Tournament of Death. Maybe we'll see. Keep
Next year
keep
we're watching
watching.
Halloween Havoc when they fucked up the main event.
What did they do? Did they do? Was it Vader versus Cactus Jack, or did they do?
Yes,
Or did
that was one
okay, it
of the
was
early
Vader.
ones.
Or like, was it Abdullah the Butcher? Did he do it? It doesn't matter. Yeah, maybe we'll do a Halloween Havoc sometime. But until then, we're doing this. Predictions. How did you feel going into the show? What were you thinking? Best match of the night, worst match of the night. What were you kind of feeling? Obviously, the thing about this show is that the two matches that were non-tournament matches that I was probably looking forward to the most didn't get taped, which was the Tajiri tag match and the Emi Sakura singles match. Those were both the prelim matches, and they did not make air whatsoever. So I was really bummed about that, even though they were both very early into their careers. Probably not
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
great. Would have been fun to watch, but yeah. So other than that, were you looking at going to the show?
So I knew the Emmy match wasn't taped, and then I knew the Tajiri match wasn't taped before I did my predictions, but I didn't know what was all clipped and what wasn't clipped. So I predicted the worst match of the night was going to be Iceman versus Kamikaze because it sounded like shit in my head. Which I can't wait till we talk about that. It's probably one of the matches of the 90s. It's probably one of the matches of the decade of
It's a
that
match that happened,
decade.
certainly.
But my predicted match of the night was Los Cowboys versus the Headhunters because Silver King's sick as fuck. I haven't seen much of El Tejano, but from what I've heard, he's great. I only know El Tejano Jr. and the Headhunters are sick as shit. So I was like, there. And then I looked on the cage match. I was like, oh, they got time. This is probably a heater.
Damn shame. Um, Yeah, I went into this match looking at it. I didn't give an exact uh worst match of the night that I was expecting. I kind of had those two in the middle. Um I knew that some of these matches were clipped. I didn't know how much. So I figured it was going to be Kamikaze and Iceman that was going to be bad, and after seeing I
Just
read a
because they didn't have the tournament match labeling, I was like, there's a reason they're not in this tournament.
yeah. But I also thought that the junior or the World Light Heavyweight Championship match might be pretty rough because I did read online that it was clipped a bit and that the crowd didn't really care about it. So I was like, that
No,
probably won't be super
that's
fun.
fair. I
But
didn't.
those were the two that I was looking at. And then, like I said earlier, I've seen Foley and Funk before when I was quite young. I was a big Mick Foley fan, or Cactus Jack, I should say. I
Yeah,
remember liking that a lot.
don't you call him by his government name? Come on.
Yeah, my bad. Um, but yeah, so I was kind of expecting that to be great. But for a match that I hadn't seen, I was expecting Dan Severn and Tarzan Goto to be like that match because I love Tarzan Goto. He has a certain air to him that I really like, and Dan Severn's Dan Severn.
Literally, when you sent me the card, I was just like, okay. This is a lot of matches, but I'm intrigued by Dan Severn versus Tarzan Goto, so I think we have
Yeah,
to watch this.
yeah. But those are kind of what I was looking at going into the show. But I guess we should just get into it, shouldn't we?
Yeah, sure.
The first, oh yeah, before we get into it, very quickly, there was an intro that I
Oh
watched.
my god, you saw my man Flying Kid Ichihara in the fucking car with the
Yeah,
belt?
dude, that's just like that. Some of the guys were just like in the car, like just driving
Yeah.
around. Leatherface and Tiger Jeet Singh were chasing children with weapons, um, with literal weapons like a sword and a chainsaw. So that was lovely. And yeah, it was just exactly the chaos you would expect. And then white dude comes up and starts introducing the show, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what IWA Japan was. I forgot that was the angle of that. Uh, the white dude brought everybody in. That I remember because I listened to Mick Foley's podcast on this show a couple years ago.
Hmm.
A year, I think it was a year and a half ago or something like that. And so there's a little tidbit that I will get into a little bit later. Um, but yeah, I remember him saying that he jumped ship because it was like this white dude who spoke English and they were buddies. And he was like, "Shit, I'll go to IWA. Why not?" So he turns back on FMW, and it was a big deal because he's Cactus Jack.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the first match of the show was a King of the Deathmatch tournament, 1995 quarterfinal match. It was barbed wire board and chain match.
Hmm.
Tiger Jeet Singh versus Mr. Gannosuke. Um, this match was a lot of brawling that
Yeah.
I really liked, but I do think the Tiger Jeet Singh match later in the show kind of like because it was the same brawling, all of the brawling felt a little bit weaker walking out
Yeah.
of the tournament, the match, if it makes sense. But this is the better, in my opinion, of the brawling matches for Tiger Jeet Singh.
Oh,
I
for
thought he
sure.
was really cool. I thought for being 50 years old, 30 years into the business, I was a big fan of what he was doing, even if it was pretty standard brawling. Mr. Gannosuke is really cool as well.
Hmm.
I always liked everything I've seen from him,
For
mostly in
people
FMW.
who only have recently gotten to Bureau, Tiger G seems like one of the biggest foreign heels like of all time.
Yeah, yeah, and he's for this show and for
Like
their
he was
tour
a
here.
mainstay in both New Japan and All Japan, like
I
as
always forget he
rivals
was in
go.
New Japan. I knew he was
Yeah,
in All
I'm
Japan.
pretty sure he jumped ship when Stan Hansen jumped ship to AJPW, so they like swapped top foreigners almost.
That tracks. That tracks. But yeah, I thought he was kind of aligned with Cactus Jack during this tour of IWA
Apparently, I
Japan.
did not know that until later. I was like,
I
"What?"
I learned it eventually, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they were aligned. I like this match a lot. I thought that the brawling was super well done.
Hmm.
Uh, the chain was a problem.
Yeah.
They tried to put the chain in this match and the next match. They tried to put the chain on the foreign heel, and they said no. And the chain was just kind of lying around. And
Yeah. It wasn't like both of the chain matches weren't really chain matches. It was
no,
there as a prop as a gimmick to use, but it wasn't your traditional chain match where the concept is you are supposed to be like locked together.
yeah, and I think this match used the chain worse. I think Terry in the next match
Yeah,
did
yeah.
utilize the
Oh
chain
no, no,
really
no.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree.
But I did think the brawling in this one was a ton of fun. I,
Hmm.
I liked the finish where Singh just goozled Ganosuke and just
Yeah.
slammed him into the barbed wire board repeatedly. I thought that was really cool, and I thought that also for his age and for his experience and everything you'd expect, I thought Tiger Jeet Singh's selling was really good for like the 30 seconds he did sell. He
Yeah.
was he was selling his ass off for Ganosuke. I was rocking with it, so I enjoyed this match generally. I thought it was a fun way to start the show. How about you?
Yeah. So just brief little notes. I do think this was the better of the Tiger G scene matches because I have more notes
Mhm.
for this one than I have the one later in the night. Um, Literally, the first note I had is I want to see a Ganosuke clutch, but I don't think we will be seeing one.
No.
um, Tiger Jeet scene I had is just beating his ass. I said, "Oh wait, Ganosuke is fighting back," and then he does like two head bump. Like Ganosuke does two headbutts and then bumps himself out of pain, which I thought was a nice touch. Because like at this point, Tiger Jeet has just been beating him across like the whole venue, and when he does fire back, he does the two headbutts and he just bumps himself, and he's like writhing around in pain. I was like, hey, you know what? I like that. I think Shiaki needs to adopt the Tiger Jeet seeing Irish whip, catch you with a choke, and take you down to the ground move.
Hell yeah.
I'll, when he Irish whipped him, I was not expecting him to just do the choke and
Just,
then the
yeah.
takedown. Yeah. He does the choke again, but this time he does on the barbed wire board and choking Ganosuke at the same time as forcing his body against the barbed wire board, which led to him win. I thought that was a really sick spot and a good way to end the match.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that I liked a lot of the finishes on this show.
Oh yeah,
Uh unfortunately forgot how bad the finish was to the main event. Um
yeah.
but but most of other matches I thought were pretty cool finishes, especially
Uh-huh.
the ones featuring Jack and all of the ones featuring the Japanese wrestlers, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
Uh I thought that all those finishes were super fun. I thought this one was no different. After the match, I don't know if you because we watched different versions of this. Did you get
No,
to
I
see
ended
the
up
backstage
switching
stuff?
because
Okay.
I don't have notes for one of the matches. Oh, it's the Shoji and Hiroshi match.
Mhm.
That one wasn't on the version that I was watching, so I had to
Got you.
swap over. So I just
Got you.
stayed on that one.
Well, after this match, they had them both do kind of, interviews. Had everybody do interviews
Yeah,
before and
it was
after
nice.
each
I liked
match.
it.
Mr. Ganosuke was yelling shit, shit, shit in English over and over again, and then he went to the bathroom and they recorded him puking into the toilet. Um, so Poor Mr. Gannosuke.
That's pro wrestling, baby.
Yeah, cry me a river. But the next match, we have Leatherface versus Terry Funk in King of the Deathmatch tournament quarterfinal barbed wire board and chain match. Um, First of all, I have to say I love Terry Funk's delivery in his promos. It's always so soft spoken,
I just
and
love
I
Terry
really
Funk in
appreciate it. I
general.
mean, yeah, Terry Funk is just tremendous, and I think he's just a really charming promo, and I
Yeah,
think people
he's a
don't give him enough
charming pro
credit.
wrestler in general.
Yeah, and that's something that I was going to bring up that Foley talked about in that podcast was he talked about Terry Funk, and I believe this is a funny little tidbit. Chigusa Nagayo was at this show.
Hmm.
And Chigusa Nagayo and Mick Foley spoke. Obviously, Chigusa didn't know a ton of English, but they spoke. And I don't know if she mentioned it or if Foley just related it between the two, that Terry Funk is a very Joshi coded pro
Hmm.
wrestler in that he is not afraid to show emotion, and his emotion is what captivates the crowd to a level that men typically can't really do. Terry
Hmm.
Funk was one of the only men to ever be able to do that.
That's
And
that's a good shout.
while this isn't necessarily the match that happened in, there was a certain level of that where it's like, they're fighting up on the fence. They climbed up the fence,
Hmm.
and you could hear people in the crowd legitimately scared for
Yeah,
Terry. You know what I mean? Like that was
that's the whole
throughout
night.
the
If
entire
like
show. Yeah.
the crowd was iffy the whole night except for Terry Funk matches, like they
Oh,
were
no doubt.
firmly behind him 100%, and I mean obviously so.
Yeah, and I understand why, and I think that he really did a great job. On the other hand, after that really well done, charming, soft spoken promo where Terry says he needs a little bit of luck, and a lot of heart to to be the king of the death match. Fucking Leatherface starts talking like a normal ass dude, and I was like, that's not how you're supposed to sound, man. You're
Oh
ruining the
yeah.
immersion. You're Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Why do you sound like
Yeah,
that?
you
Why
should
you
be fucking revving the chainsaw and just swinging the bitch, man. Like,
he was with the chainsaw the whole time, but he was like, "I love Terry Funk. Terry Funk is an all time legend." I was like, "I know. I don't
no,
need to hear it from you.
don't, you're Leatherface.
Like,
Don't.
you don't need to be saying that. Like, I know, I agree, but you're not right now, man." Um, but yeah, so found that really fucking funny. I was like, "Why did they let him talk? What the hell?" Um, but yeah, and then the match starts. Leatherface also refused to put on the chain, and we were off to the races.
Oh,
Xavier, how
it's
did you feel
awesome.
about this one?
Yeah, I actually like this way more than I expected to.
Mhm.
Leatherface pops off a moonsault like 10 seconds into the
That
match
was
before
insane.
rolling Terry out onto the barbed wire board. I was like, brother, match just started. Leatherface now has a chainsaw attempting to murder Terry Funk before the crowd rallied behind Terry like almost immediately after the chainsaw was introduced because Terry does like take like shots with the chainsaw. Like
Yeah, that
obviously,
I was fucking confused. I was like, because usually with like a real weapon like that, unless it's
yeah.
like CZW, it's like, oh, it's gonna be like, just kind of like,
Yeah, I thought he was
you
gonna
know,
move, but nah.
pulling the
Terry,
punch
Terry just
movement,
like
whatever.
bumped himself like twice off of the chain. So I was like, this dude's insane, but that's why I love him. Terry Funk started whipping Leatherface with the chain, and then started
Mhm.
doing the chain assisted punches. I love Terry Funk doing punches. It's like one of my favorite things to watch. It's doing punches in pro wrestling is a lost art because most
Oh,
of them now are
100%.
like bad. That and like most people fall into the I'm gonna be honest, Tomohiro Ishii killed pro wrestling because everybody wants to do the forearms, and
Oh yeah.
and nobody wants to throw punches anymore.
I mean, even like, it's crazy when you start praying for a chop, because
Yeah,
chop's overdone too. But
yeah,
as someone who's watched Stardom for all these years, Saya Ida and Xena throwing chops instead of forearms is like game changing for them because they're the only motherfuckers who don't throw forearms. You know what
I,
I mean?
it is amazing how much Go Shiozaki and Naomichi Marufuji stand out amongst the current no
Hmm.
roster because they are like the only ones that do chops.
Exactly.
That and their chops can like kill you. Um, So they started climbing the cage that was separating like the crowd and the action. And I was very scared for what was going to happen, but I also was kind of hoping something crazy was happening. I was hoping like fucking Terry Funk launched Leatherface off the bitch to the floor, just do something crazy. Um, but right before the spot where Terry pulls Leatherface to the top of the floor, or no, this is when Leatherface is on the top rope. and he's standing on the top rope, and the chain is connecting them. And Terry pulls it and pulls Leatherface through a Japanese table. For some
Oh yeah.
reason, the camera pans, and there's just a sea of shirtless dudes just chilling there.
I missed
And
that. What the fuck?
I was just like, what was these like 3 shirtless dudes and these 2 girls in front of them? And I was just like, why? And like the shirtless dudes were going crazy. They're like, oh fuck yeah. I was just like,
Some of the crowd shots were really funny in the Severn Goto match.
oh yeah.
Severn was just fucking lighting dude up. He was fucking him up, and you see like
Yeah,
people in the
the
crowd
crowd
like,
was just like, oh
oh
my god.
no,
Oh
this is
no, but
bad.
like they were going crazy for Terry Funk, and I was like, hell yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Terry Funk gets the win, and obviously the crowd goes wild. Like I said, I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much as you. I thought it
Yeah,
was pretty standard. I thought, like I said, it did
yeah,
make better use of the chain. And Terry Funk gets a bump because
yeah,
he's Terry Funk. Um, so it was the better of the two non-final Terry Funk matches of the night. I'll say that.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I liked the fence bit where they were like really precarious with that. I thought that was pretty cool, and I love
Mm-hmm.
that Funk simply punched dude, and then like not even high stack, but just like kind of like you
Go
know
into it. Yeah,
a forceful pin, and he won with that. So yeah, I thought this was pretty good. I didn't think it was anything too great. Kind of have this in the match previous on the same level for different reasons. But yeah, I thought they were both pretty fun and generally, you know, good to watch. Little matches, nothing too out of the ordinary. Next up was Terry Gordy versus Cactus Jack in a King of the Death match 1995 quarterfinals match, baseball bats and thumbtacks. Um, I'm not gonna lie, this was like one of my favorite matches of the night. I fucking love this, and
why?
I just thought it was so fucking dope. And like the story behind this is and you could tell from the jump that Terry Gordy has no idea what the hell he's doing here.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
he's
Well, I
completely
actually
just
have I actually have a note about that. I'll just take over real quick. So like Terry Gordy had God, Terry Gordy had already had his big AJPW run by this point.
yeah.
He was out of the company by then. He doesn't go back because obvious reasons. Yeah, I'm not gonna spill it. If you know the history of Terry Gordy, you know why he's no longer in JPW at this point. But it hasn't hit like rock bottom. He hasn't had the WWF run as the Executioner. That comes the next year. And obviously Foley's best run was yet to come. I think this was just a matter of like Gordy trying to prove that like, hey, I'm like still trying to be the Terry Gordy of old, whether you know uh his physically he could do that or not was remained to be seen, but he was gonna try. Obviously, I thought it was weird that he was in this tournament. I mean, obviously, the Freebirds had like great bunkhouse matches or and all
Oh,
that, and
but
like
I looked it up. The most like recent death match, quote unquote, they had before this was like in '89. It was a Texas Death. So it
yeah,
was like 6 years
yeah.
since
So
he
yeah, like
had
so I
anything
knew that he
sort of like this.
did that, but like I never associated him as a deathmatch guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just said it was like 6 years since like he had a match kind of like this. So I thought he was weird in this, but I thought he did a good
Or no, it
job.
was even more. It was fucking 8 years. Last
Oh,
match. It was
word.
him and Steve Williams in '87 was the last like
Yeah.
proper
Yeah.
death match he had.
But I wasn't as high on this match as you, but I did have fun because Cactus was like lying face down in the bed of tacks, and Gordy just fucking stomps his face into the tacks, and Cactus just immediately starts gushing. And then Gordy does a power bomb to Cactus on the bed of tacks, and it looks disgusting. And Gordy just taunt spams and then power bombs him again.
Yeah, dude. I just thought so. This was again a little bit of background. Cactus knew that Terry Gordy was like not in form here. He was pretty checked out. He
Yeah.
was getting his pay. Um, but Cactus was a big Terry Gordy fan.
Mhm.
So he was like, "Hey, I will literally like kill myself 10 times over to make this a good match because I really like you and you're someone I really respect." And I think that kind of like going into this, I was like, "Oh yeah, Terry Gordy's a bit, older. He's not
Yeah.
really where he's at
You can
anymore."
like tell visibly, like that WWF run's coming. Like
Yeah.
that's the nicest way to put it.
You could tell that he's not
He's
in
not Terry
form
Gordy.
anymore. And so I appreciated the insane lengths they went to
Yeah,
just like make this entertaining, and I
and
think
they did that.
I think they completely succeeded on that. I mean,
Yeah.
Cactus just did Gordy hit a deadly driver just onto the floor off the apron, just like straight up,
Hmm.
just nasty as hell. I forget sometimes that that Jack was doing those sorts of bumps like regularly, where
Yeah.
it's just like the most nasty, no nothing, just a hip bump
Love of the
onto the
game.
concrete. Love of the game. Nobody to like even catch him. Like the Cactus elbow
Hmm.
is a bit better because it's like it has somebody to kind of brace your fall a little
Yeah.
bit. Dude just went overhead onto his fucking hip. It was disgusting.
Yeah. No
And then yeah,
wonder
I
that he started walking like he did
oh
very
yeah,
early on.
I mean this
Um,
show really tells you how Mick Foley's body came to be. Like
yeah.
all
And
of his
like
hip
while
problems.
while I didn't enjoy this as much as you, I think this might be my favorite finish of the night. Cactus fights back because Gordy is like trying to put him away. He just grabs a handful of tacks, throws them at Gordy's face before DDTing him on a bed of tacks to win.
Yeah, and I
I
think
love that.
I loved it too. I loved that Gordy just was fucking like curb stomping dude into the tax, like you said. I thought that was disgusting. Power bomb onto the tax. Like Foley was just taking so much here,
Hmm.
and I think it kind of played into his promo before this match, which he was basically like, this tournament isn't about being the best at doing moves, being the most aggressive. It's about being able to withstand as much as possible. And so I like that this match that the story they told here was Cactus getting fucked up for just like 6.5 minutes straight, getting a little resourceful, one DDT on the tax, Terry Gordy, not a deathmatch guy, pins him, it's over. It was just Cactus withstanding everything and then getting that one shot. Terry Gordy couldn't withstand it, you know, fucking Cactus wins. I think that was really cool. Though I will say that story kind of got killed because Terry Gordy immediately got up and started beating the fuck out of Cactus. He just
Yeah,
no sold it. He was like, I don't care if I got DT'd on the text. I'm getting my heat back.
he getting his
And
heat back.
he just started beating the fuck out of Cactus. So I was like, that kind of kills the story. But I appreciate what they were going for here. And I really liked it. I thought it was just a ton of fun. It was just kind of car crashy. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it was my favorite type of car crash in that way. Um, so yeah, big fan of this match. One of my favorites of the night, if I'm being completely honest.
For sure.
Um, Next up, we had another baseball bat and thumbtack match. This time it was Shoji Nakamaki against Hiroshi Ono. Fun fact: Nakamaki was in that main event from the Wing Show we were going to watch,
I wish we
alongside.
watched it because I don't have notes for this match because I was doing something else. However, match later of the night, brother was
Oh
on one.
man, this match was insane, and I'll explain
It
why in a
did
minute.
look like I was watching it. I just didn't take notes. So,
Yeah, so well, to get into what happened in that Wing match, it was him and Wing Kanemaru, or Kanemura rather.
oh,
They
Kintaro kind of
they
more. Okay.
yeah, they tagged against Jado Ghetto, and apparently somebody had an idea to do a certain spot involving the fire, and you know, Kenny Mura ended up being the recipient of it, and he was like, "That was fucked up. I hate those fuckers. I hate this all. Fuck me. Fuck everything." So so luckily, Nakamaki was not the one that ended up getting real fucked up in that match. He got fucked up too, but besides the point. This match was fun. They did good work actually. Like they actually wrestled a match, and
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, cool. That's cool."
it set them
Um,
apart a great deal.
definitely, and I really enjoyed it in that way, and I appreciated that they were doing their moves, doing the wrestling match, and then they started like kind of inching towards the hardcore stuff a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and then for the last like minute, it was just the most gruesome thing you've ever seen. Um, I loved that. This was also Ono's last match as a full time wrestler. It was a send off. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so like he really went out on his fucking sword because the last 2 minutes they were just slamming each
They
other into the
looked destroyed.
thumbtacks as hard as possible. They would just slam each other's faces in over and over again, pin, kick out. The other person would do it. It would just they were just really just killing each other, and it was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I thought the match, the work was really well done. I enjoyed the match in general, but I thought that the finish where they were just really getting nasty with it and just no regard for anything. I thought that was one of the highlights of the night. It was really gruesome. I loved
for
it.
sure.
Oh yeah, you had no notes. How did you feel about
Yeah.
this match overall?
Oh no, I liked it. I think I'll talk about him later, but I think Shoji Nakamaki is like one of my pillars.
He fucking rules. He's a badass. This match and the match later definitely showed that off.
I went in this cage match and somebody like gave him like a low rating. They gave him like a 5 or something. I was like, man, fuck you. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, he was like the thing about a lot of '90s Japan guys is that like,
Well, especially like the deathmatch guys that from FMW and then from
yeah, uh, they kind of are not respected over here, which sucks. But also they sandbag a lot.
yeah,
Um, and so like if an American wrestler or a Western wrestler in general has something to say about any of these wrestlers, it'll be like, oh, he sandbagged me. He was kind of uncooperative. But we had
yeah.
a good
Y'all
match
should
with him.
like ask Sabu on Twitter what he thinks about Koji Kanemoto.
Exactly. Or or Chris Jericho, what he thinks about Koji Kanemoto for that matter.
Yeah, it turns
They've
out historically Koji Kanemoto not a nice guy.
no, kind of a dick, but
Yeah,
good wrestler, in my opinion, personally.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know if that's a hot take. I know like I think most people think he's good, but you never
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I really like this. It was a fun way to cap off the quarterfinal round, and after that, we got into some non-tournament action. This was a WWA World Light Heavyweight Championship match. It was Flying Kid Ichihara against Takashi Okano. The WWA Championship, Light Heavyweight Championship. I didn't write it down, but I did find it interesting, and I hate that I didn't have it written down, because now I'm going on Cage Match to try to find it. Um, this belt was
You got it. Come on.
for the world. Yeah, it was the fucking It was a Mexican belt. That they just took over to Japan for a while. Um, like it was held by like La Parca and shit.
It paved the way for the UWA belts.
Wait a second, what the fuck? Oh wait, yeah, this is the weird thing. So this belt like didn't exist.
What?
Um, because when you like okay, when you look it up, you just find the fucking Mexican one, and I was like, oh, so he won the like he was they were that's cool. Um, you find two Mexican ones in fact. Yeah, those never went to Japan, so this belt is just like lost. I don't know what belt this is. If I'm being completely honest. It's very much confusing. That's what it was. Because I looked this up last night and I was like, wait, why isn't that?
It just doesn't exist. It's great.
Yeah. Um, and even if you go on their like cage matches, neither of them are considered champion. Because spoiler, not really. Flying Kid Ichihara, who was the champion going into this match, lost the belt to Okano. Neither of them, like when you go to their cage match title section, neither of them are WWA light heavyweight champion
This is an
ever
outrage. I
in
think
their
we have to.
like.
I think we have to call out Cage Match on Twitter and tell them that we're not going to stand for them disgracing the legacies of Flying Kid Ichihara and Takashi Akano because they are in fact former WWA World Light Heavyweight Champions.
Correct. But this match was clipped. It
Yeah,
was a 17-minute match that we only
I
got to
was
see
angry
maybe
because
6 of.
like obviously it's a junior match. I thought it would be one of the best of the night. They did good stuff in the stuff that we did see, but ultimately, I understand because the crowd just did not care, like at all. Like when I mean I like not care at all, I mean at all. Like they got the polite, like when the Young Bucks, I think it was the Young Bucks or Nick Aldis, one of the two, that lied and said Japanese crowds are
Oh
so
yeah, it was
respectful.
Aldous.
They're
It was
just
Aldous.
quiet and they clap. That's what they did to this match, man. um, with that being said, Akano did hit one of the most beast blue thunder bombs ever because he didn't fucking spin out. He just elevated them and then dropped them. Um, and it was a nice change of pace from what we had watched, but ultimately you didn't get as much as you would hope you would get.
Okay, so I might have solved the thing.
Oh,
I
this is
don't know for
big.
sure, but at so in during this time on Cage Match, Gran Hamada is considered to have held the WWE World Junior Light Heavyweight Championship.
Also, Grand Hamada's a paper champion, is what you're telling me.
But so Gran Hamada again on Cage Match won the belt in '93 and didn't defend it until '96. So I have a feeling that the belt traveled a little bit off of Gran Hamada because he was defending it in Michinoku Pro, he was defending it in New Japan. Like he was defending it around the country in Japan. So
What if he just let them rent it?
it's very possible. That's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm thinking that Gran Hamada probably, uh, you know, let homies win the belt here and there, and it was just kind of like because I don't know if you know this, IWA Japan not super well documented
Mm-hmm.
amongst Westerners. I think it's very possible that Gran Hamada lost it to someone who lost it to someone who lost it to Flying
Ichihara.
Kid Ichihara, who he was a Michinoku Pro guy
Oh,
at
he
some point.
definitely won that bitch in a Michinoku Pro show.
Maybe not. Well, I can't trust Cage Match actually. Now that I think about it, because Cage Match doesn't have anything. But yeah, I'm sure that Flying Kid Ichihara probably won it from Gran Hamada, and it's just not up there. But I thought that was a really interesting little thing. Um, but yeah, I thought this match was like a fun little match. I thought it was kind of bland, things considered. And if this was like the highest end stuff, the highest end 6 minutes of the 17 minutes, I imagine it wasn't that great
I
of a
doubt
match.
it because like 3 of those minutes were just the filling out process.
That's true. That is the problem with kilt matches is that they like to kind of like, and I like this. Like you start and finish a match, so they show the start of the match and then they just kind of like jump around.
Yeah.
Um, the wing match the wing show that I started, obviously you ended up not watching because I told you not to. Had two luchadoras. It was like a 10-minute luchadora match. I got to see a minute and a half of it, and I was like, that was fucking killer. Why didn't you show me more? And I feel like that might have been the case here, but I also think that I think the crowd just not being really into it for 17 minutes might have, lasted a bit long if it didn't get clipped down for the VHS tape.
That's
So I
okay.
was
We got
kind
the
of,
real junior heavyweight championship match coming up, so that's fine.
well, next match was Kamikaze versus the Iceman. This was Kamikaze, who is Kamikaze. I don't think he's anybody of note. Taking on,
He's
uh,
a actually
oh,
I
was he?
do have something to note about Kamikaze. So he's a
Okay.
freelance wrestler, obviously. He's actually a former BJW heavyweight champion. He's
Oh, I
also
didn't
a
know.
former 01 world heavyweight champion. He won that in 2012. Seems like he was mainly just a BJW and a 01 mainstay. Um, I want to. It says he's still active. Yeah, he wrestled this year. He wrestled at a 01 show. He actually went 17 minutes. It was him and Hajime versus Junior Matsunaga and Sukataka Sato. So he's still around. He's still
That's insane.
rocking.
Good for him.
Yeah.
He was the better half of this match. He
Yeah.
was taking on the masked Ricky Santana, who took some time away from being a job guy in WCW to wrestle as a weird purple guy in a costume that everybody made fun of. Um, yeah, the only thing of note for this match was that the crowd was
Made fun of him.
lively, but yeah, they were just heckling the shit out of him constantly and laughing. They were all popping at each other's jokes in the crowd while they tried to wrestle. It was really funny. I'm not gonna lie.
The Iceman might be the most base wrestler of all time. First of all, this match is terrible.
Yep.
Secondly, the Iceman, Master Ricky Santana, is doing lucha spots that he's not even remotely athletic enough to do at this point in time. So it just came across really hilariously. Um, and like he's trying to be this big, innovative, like big high flyers. You know, the ones that are like, oh, I'm a big guy, but I can fly. He's trying to do that in like 95, except he doesn't. He just doesn't have the athleticism to do it. So it just came across really funny. And the match just was really clunky, really awful. The crowd heckled the shit out of it. They laughed. It was funny. 5 stars.
Yeah. So holy fuck! Like I'm looking at the Iceman's cage match. Um, him and Headhunter A went 16 minutes and 40 seconds this year.
We gotta watch that.
in Sendai.
We gotta watch that.
That's insane. But yeah, this match was bad. This was, as far as I can tell, yeah, this was
I think
Iceman.
if you're watching this show, I think you have to watch this match for the experience.
Yeah, this was
because
Iceman's
like
last match in IWA Japan.
because
um,
like it's amazing how like the crowd did not hide the fact that they thought this shit was terrible and they were gonna laugh at it. And you know, no, this was a VHS version that we watched, and you figured like maybe they like try to hide that or something. Nah, man, it's just there.
yeah, this was pretty much in its full glory. It wasn't clipped that much. Because it was just 9 minutes, and I think I saw like 5 minutes of it, so it was there. Could have had young Emi Sakura on the show or Tajiri in a tag, but no, we get this. But yeah, this was his last match in IWA Japan. Ricky Santana went on to wrestle in BJW the
Mhm.
next times he went to Japan, and also All Japan. He wrestled in All Japan in fucking '98. Really?
I'm sure he had bangers, man.
He had a World Junior title match. That's the thing that happened.
Are you serious?
Yeah, against
He was pretty big here.
Taio Kia.
TKO. Oh, shouts out. But I was
Yeah,
gonna say he
fucking
was pretty big at this point.
no limit legend. Oh yeah, he was fucking huge. I don't know how he
Like,
lost that
I
weight
mean, he
in
probably slimmed
a
down.
few
To be
years.
fair,
Well, yeah, I mean it was 3 years later. Actually, that tracks. Um, Apparently he wasn't that big. He was, his whatever. Um, he was big here, but he probably could have slimmed down pretty easily. And he was smaller in WCW and WWF,
that's
so
fair.
makes sense. But yeah, bad match, worst match of the night. Oh, spoilers. Sorry, talk about that later. Um,
Yeah, you don't know that.
but I will say, that I think the crowd caring did make it like watchable.
Yeah,
Uh, because the crowd, not even caring, but the crowd just like kind of heckling and making fun of it,
yeah.
made it kind of fun to watch them try to be like, work around it.
It
At
gave
some
them
point,
a comedy break for them to lock in for the next half of the
yeah, and
tournament.
at some point, the Iceman just started talking shit in Spanish, and everybody fucking bursted out laughing. And I was like, they are delirious at this point. It's a long ass show. um, but yeah, so that was that was that section of non-tournament action. We return to the King of the Deathmatch tournament with a semifinal barbed wire board and glass match. It was Tiger Jeet Singh versus Terry Funk. Biggest problem with this match
I
was
didn't like
that
it. I'm gonna
uh,
say it.
well, the biggest problem with this match is that the biggest spot they did not catch on camera. Um, Terry Funk went through a bunch of glass and they just recorded Tiger Jeet Singh's face while he did it.
Uh
Um, Yeah, so that was like the big like selling point in the match. That was what the crowd reacted to the biggest. That was just like that was the entire match. Like that was the big point. Everything else was pretty bland, and we didn't get to see it. So
I
that was the biggest problem, among other problems with this match. Yeah, I didn't think it was very good.
yeah, yeah. I didn't like it. It was the same as the match earlier, just wasn't as good. I'm actually curious if anybody has seen like Tiger G Singh's like All Japan or New Japan stuff, what the consensus on him is, because I imagine like his style probably got pretty repetitive, but it also could be different because the crowds and the people he was working and
Yeah, and
the
also this
environment.
was this was both of them 50 years and or 50 years in their career.
Well, that doesn't
Thir-
really matter in the case
30
of
years.
Terry because Terry just
Terry just
was
kept going.
great
I
until
mean,
forever.
I still love the fucking one night stand tag
Yeah.
with him and Dreamer against Edge and Foley, even though that was the worst one night stand of the two.
Um.
I still remember Terry Funk being fucking baller in that. So like he,
Yeah.
he kept
Like
going for a good 10, 12
so.
years.
Like maybe because I was just like literally one of my notes was like did people like Tiger Jeet Singh historically? Just because, like I said, I haven't seen his All Japan or New Japan stuff, and it's possible that's like fucking stellar work. It's just based off of these two matches, and obviously he's a lot older. They were different environment. We're in a different environment, so like my judgment's kind of clogged. But still, I was just like, this one was yeah. But his best friend Cactus Jack came out to help him.
Tried to.
But miscommunication allowed Funk to slither away with the win. That's actually one of my favorite Terry Funk things. He actually works this angle like forever. Like in 2001 WCW, he's hardcore champion, and the angle is Eric Bischoff's just like, Terry, you're like old. Like you should like retire. And Terry is like, you have to fucking kill me, son. You have to kill me. And he just kept on finding, like, he would face people in hardcore title matches. They would beat the shit out of him, and he would somehow sneak away with the belt. And it's just like such a good angle. And it's kind of like this because, like, you know, he got destroyed the whole match. They're about to double team him. He moves for 1 second, miscommunication, and he slithers away with the win. And I just love it. I think it's just a perfect trope for Terry Funk.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's the thinking man's wrestler, right?
Yeah,
Like, people talk about technical wrestling being that. No, it's like Terry Funk is actually
for sure.
Terry Funk is both the thinking and emotional man's wrestler. Because he gets your heartstrings, but he also is just a smart, like from like a layout standpoint, fucking genius of pro wrestling. But yeah, I agree. I think that I really enjoyed what Jeet Singh showed off in the first match. I thought that this match showed me that he shouldn't wrestle twice in one day, because it's like, oh, it's the same thing, and you know, it pretty immediately wears off at this point in time. Especially I'm trying to remember if I'm right or not. He was like not more of a tag guy, but he had a lot of tag teams throughout the years. I feel like he was probably a great tag wrestler. But I think
Okay.
seeing two singles matches in one show really kind
Yeah.
of,
You know, good point.
really just kind of shows that it's like, oh well, he is a product of an older era where like shit wasn't recorded. He was wrestling very early on. He didn't really adapt to
Mhm.
having to change up your style. Maybe not change up your style, but
Which fair,
show something different every match.
which fair play to him because he was still like really over. Like even
Yeah,
on this show, like he was still really over. The crowd like treated him as such. He's like one of the most historical foreign figures in Japanese wrestling history. So like, of course,
yeah, exactly. So I think, for all things considered, I thought this match wasn't good. I thought it was pretty mediocre, but I did think,
respectfully, just wasn't
yeah,
enjoyable.
I think Takashi Singh, I liked his match earlier tonight, so I'm not gonna give him too much of a problem.
I don't
Him
know. I think
again,
he's cool. Like from a vibes perspective, I think Tiger G sings sick.
him with his fucking sword handle, just beating the
Yeah,
fuck, bludgeoning the ref for
he's
no
homies
reason
with
before this
Cactus
match
Jack
happened.
for some reason, and like, yeah,
Yeah,
like from a vibes wise, Tiger G sings like top 5 all time.
after the main event, Takashi Singh was backstage while Cactus cut his like famous promo, and Tiger was just like, "You're never gonna lose to him again. You're gonna beat him so many more times." Cactus like,
Fucking
"Yeah,
nuts.
thank you, Tiger."
I'm trying to cut this
Um,
very serious promo.
yeah, and like he's trying to sell like not to jump ahead, but Cactus was trying to sell that like he feels like a like he doesn't feel like a winner. Like the fans still love Terry and he doesn't have anything, and Tiger's just there like, "You have me, my brother," and he's like, "Yeah,
Shouts out, man.
thanks, Tiger, I appreciate it." Like I got that vibe from it, but yeah, I thought that was really funny. This match not so great. 250-year-olds 3 years in, just didn't really match super well. And like I said, the biggest spot of the match completely missed by the camera. So like,
Yeah.
it just it was just kind of a recipe for disaster. A recipe for success, however, was the next match. It was Cactus Jack versus Shoji Nakamaki in a King of the Deathmatch tournament semifinal match, barbed wire board and spike nail bed match. Xavier, I know you love this match, so let me hear about it.
Man, I was just like, I was watching this and I was like, it'll be another tournament match. We'll move on and, let me just get through this show. I was watching it and I was just like, holy fuck, they're cooking. The spike nail boards just moved me in general, just because,
Yeah.
especially since it was like 95, they looked like disgusting. They looked like you take a bump on those, you're like dead. Like Shoji gets his head pressed into the nail board briefly, and then he gets away and just starts repeatedly sending Cactus into the nail boards. Like any strike he did, punch, everything he did was knocking Cactus back into the nail board, and it was such a sick visual. Like I can't explain it, but like Shoji has this fire to him where it's just like infectious almost, where you just like want to root for him. Like in
Mhm.
every little thing he does, he has this fire behind it, and it's just like, oh my god. Cactus does fight back. He does the Cactus elbow off the apron with the spiked nail board draped across Shoji, and when the board flies off, Shoji's just like butchered, just covered in blood. Um, Shoji does get back up. He keeps shoving Cactus back into the nail board when he fires up. And then he shoves them into the barbed wire board and then tries to drop a leaping headbutt. And the Cactus moves and he headbutts the barbed wire board. At this point, the crowd is rocking and I'm fired up. Cactus doesn't know how to put Shoji away, so Shoji fires up and hits a bunch of headbutts and an Arn Anderson style DDT. Cactus finally puts him away with the double arm DDT on the barbed wire board, but this match kicked ass, buddy. Like I said, Shoji Nakamaki is like one of my pillars.
He's fucking badass. I love this shit. I thought that Shoji just like got beat so bad in this and nonstop. I mean, like he was on the rope and Cactus put the barbed wire board on him and just threw himself at it. I was like, that was tough. And then like a minute later,
Shoji was trained by Onita and Tarzan Goto, and you could like tell because like the fire he had was very Onita-esque, like at his peak.
I think Onita not only is an underrated wrestler for what he is, but he's also a very underrated, not trainer because Goto was training everybody for the most part, but very underrated like mentor to some of these guys and like just like somebody to be learned from. I feel like you could definitely, I agree. You could
a lot of people look up to him. Like even Kai in current day who wrestles in Dragon Gate, he like Onita's like his favorite wrestler.
And I mean,
and he's a Muto disciple, which is crazy.
Yeah, true. But Shoji was only in FMW for like a year or two, not even. He spent most of his time just kind of freelancing, jumping around. And I think, you know, but you could definitely see that. I agree, because he was just so down to take everything, but also like he just had this fire to him. In the match prior, I forgot to bring up in him against.
Shoji has a like relatively short career. He only goes from like 92 to 03. It's like 11 years.
Well, he technically retires in 03, but he has a couple appearances from then on because I'm looking at the cage match.
Yeah. My man does win the IWA world title, which is real.
Wait, what the fuck? Sorry, this is a very cage match heavy episode. I apologize, folks, but is this real? I'm trying to confirm. Shoji Nakamaki wrestled Masahiro Chono in the Tokyo Dome.
Is that like real?
In 97? I have a Tokyo Dome book. If his name is in here, I'm going to, I'll check in a minute. But yeah, and then the fucking nail Cactus elbow drop was just fucked up. Like there was like Nakamaki was taking some shit, and I was kind of here for it.
Every like weapon in this, just because it's 95, it just looked so fucked up. I don't know if you saw the close-up shots of the barbed wire. We know how barbed wire looks now. Their barbed wire looked really fucked up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so he was on this Tokyo Dome show.
Okay, we have something else to dive into.
According to I know you love him, Chris Charlton, he wrestled Masahiro Chono on a show that was like right at the start of the NWO invasion.
Why wasn't Shoji Nakamaki in the NWO? That's the question we need to be asking.
Yeah, it was.
Him and NWO Sting could have had a run. Okay.
And I quote, "It was Chono's second match of the evening, though with his first going down as the shortest in Tokyo Dome history, fatigue was not much of a factor. Chono brawled with and then handily defeated Shoji Nakamaki in just over a minute in one of the 4 matches that served as exposure on the grand stage for a new deathmatch promotion by the name of Big Japan Wrestling." So New Japan was promoting Big Japan, and
it's crazy.
And in doing so, they let Nakamaki lose to Chono in a minute and 7 seconds.
That's just not right, man.
Yeah, at the beginning of like his like fucking run in NWO, so pretty funny shit. But yeah, I thought back to this match. I thought the match was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I had a fun time, and yeah, I agree. I think Nakamaki was just really badass. Him sandbagging was kind of valid too, because he had taken like 7 crazy spots, and he was like, "I don't want to get powerbombed through this fucking board, man. Just push me onto it or something. I don't know. I'm not taking all that. Please, just let me just DDT me. Come on." And I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, big fan of this. That was a really good match, and it set up our final, which was Terry Funk and Cactus Jack, which we'll talk about in a little bit because we have two more non-tournament matches to get to.
Yeah, we got some B shit here, man.
Next up, it was the Headhunters challenging El Tijano. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Tana.
El Tijano and Silver King for the IWA World Tag Team Championships. Um, Headhunters won this match, which I was actually shocked about, but we only got to see a few minutes of it. But I actually really enjoyed what I got to see. How did you feel about this?
This was the match I was angry got clipped so much. Um, because while the crowd wasn't like crazy into it, they still, reacted because it was crazy shit. These tag belts kind of look like DPW ones color wise, but I think the TTT Pro independent tag belts took inspiration from these. I'm about to send you a picture of the belt because like it's like almost an exact copy. The only difference is like the placement of the logo. I just sent it to you. But I like these belts a lot. Shouts out Silver King. Shouts out my guy El Tejano Jr. Obviously, we're talking about El Tejano, but Tejano Jr. is my guy. I think the match, like I said, I think this match suffered the most from the clipping because in full, I think this match would have just been flat out great. And even then, the stuff that we did see, yeah, that's the belt there.
I could see it.
Yeah. Um, Even then, the stuff that we did see from the match was like really, really good stuff. Um, the Headhunters are just big guys that move incredibly well for their size. Those Cowboys are a good team, it seems. I haven't seen too much of them, but I can tell that they're a well-oiled machine. They do the fucking world's greatest tag team slingshot onto the back on one of the Headhunters, and then they just dive out the ring, and then the other Headhunter does a tope. That's what got the crowd up. The crowd, other than like the few big spots, it was kind of but at this point, this match, the match prior was during the day. This match, it's nighttime, and obviously they just want to get to the final, so
Yeah.
they were kind of fatigued a little bit. But that's fine. Headhunters show up. Big love to Jado and Gato with the super power bomb. Obviously, it was done differently, and they probably did it first. But I wanted to shout out Jado and Gato as a team. Headhunters win. They become double champs. They have belts in both Puerto Rico and the IWA.
Yeah, I was shocked at how good the Headhunters were. Because you
I
look
don't
at,
know how have you not stumbled upon like Headhunter clips on Twitter? Like people post them and they're
I've
like
seen some
beasting.
clips, but I didn't expect, like a full. We only got to see maybe 6, 7 minutes of this 17-minute match. I didn't expect them to just like have like good matches. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I expect them to, like, not to compare them, but Mabel has some fire fucking highlights. But Mabel matches.
Come on, man.
Some of them were bangers.
Don't
Some of
do.
them were bangers.
I
I'm
was
not
gonna say,
gonna lie.
don't do that. Don't do that.
Some of them were bangers. I mean, him just hurting people. I'm rocking with him hurting Undertaker. Mad funny. Um, But no, like, I think that's like I didn't expect them to just have such a well done tag style and such a fluid tag style, I guess. Because I really enjoyed this match for what it was. Um, I thought it was pretty standard. I liked how they kept cutting off Los Cowboys. I thought Cowboys were doing great jobs, doing a great job with their kind of like momentum and just being
Hmm.
really good baby faces, just getting getting those high, high paced moves off and just like really having a good time against Headhunters who
Hmm.
were very clearly a bit slower and a bit more cut off. Like I said, they just kind of were going
Even
for the
then,
cutoff.
although they were a bit slower, I mean, those Cowboys are like technically like junior sized in
Yeah.
comparison. They moved around very, very well.
Oh
So
yeah, definitely. I think it was just like comparably.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those Cowboys were doing the really fast paced stuff, and I think Headhunters made them look good in that sense, while also getting theirs and winning the match and pretty strongly winning those belts. And yeah, they ended up the show with all the belts. That one set of belts they had looked fucking wild. The big ass
Yeah,
ones. I
yeah,
think they were
yeah,
the ones they had in Mexico.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
weird looking belts. Uh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Some
you just
about it
gotta see them. They're interesting looking belts.
for sure, for sure. But now we move on to the
Yeah,
singular or the NWA World Championship match. Not the only
yeah.
singles style match that happened earlier. Wasn't as good as this one, which was Dan Severn defending the NWA World Championship against Tarzan Goto.
I do
Tarzan
have
Goto
some
is like
background
a
knowledge on this after this.
god by 95.
Yeah.
So like I really like the dynamic there, but go ahead, Davey.
Um, First of all, I love the Dan Severn promo where he's just like, "Oh yeah, I know he's just gonna use a bunch of weapons. I'm just gonna have to expect the unexpected," which I'm glad he understood that coming in. Tarzan Goto, if the announcements were right, he's the IWA World Heavyweight Champion at this time.
Yes.
So it's a big deal. NWA champ versus IWA champ. Dan Severn holds this title for 4 years before dropping to Naoya Ogawa, and then he reclaims it in 2002, defeating Shinya Hashimoto before
I didn't know that.
relinquishing the belt because the NWA title was becoming a fixture of a new company starting because of called TNA. And I also just believe he wasn't a fan of Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, actually that tracks. No, I had no idea he lost it to fucking Ogawa. Wait, you said
Yeah,
Ogawa, right?
Naoya Ogawa was a two-time
No,
NWA World Champion.
that's insane. I did not know that.
So it was crazy times for the NWA belt because the NWA belt was basically what it is now, where it's just an afterthought to most people. Um, for its imperfections, TNA really brought value to the NWA branding, and made it important again. Like one of Christian's big things when he went to TNA was he wanted to be NWA World Champion, but that wasn't the case around this time. So that's why like a match like this was happening, and that's why like Zero One was able to get all the NWA belts, and like Hashimoto got the NWA, he won the NWA World Title in like Connecticut for some reason. Like the belt wasn't what it once was or what it would be in TNA. This match was a fun dynamic. It was interesting because like they stalled a lot at the beginning. And I was just like, okay. Obviously another clip match, but it seemed like
Not too heavily at least.
not too heavily, but still another clip match. Seemed like a lot of filler. But the crowd came alive for it because like, how do I put this nicely? So basically, Dan Severn was like trying to fuck up Tarzan Goto. He wasn't necessarily taking matters into his own hands, but it's just Dan Severn's style. Tarzan Goto breaks a beer bottle on the ring post, and he tries to stab Dan Severn, and Dan
Yeah.
Severn blocks it with a chair. And then they brawl
Even
into the
Dan Severn even says after the match, he's like, I expected chairs and shit, but I didn't expect him to bring a fucking bottle.
yeah. So like he blocks it, and like for what it's worth, like Tarzan Goto's like crazy, but like Dan Severn was a trooper. I could see a lot of shooters like him being off put by this. He like took it like a champ because they go into the crowd and they get into like this really serious scrap that seemed like like a shoot almost, but it wasn't because like Tarzan Goto comes up on top and Dan Severn just lets him pelt him with chairs,
Oh
and
yeah.
then Dan
For a
Severn,
good minute.
yeah, and he just takes it. They stall a little bit more, but they get in the ring, and I wish they did a little more in the ring because like the brief little bit of wrestling we did get between the two surprisingly was good for it to be Goto versus Severn because it's such a weird styles clash, but it was like good. Severn actually throws Goto with a crazy German and then just puts him in a choke and wins. It's so sick because
Yeah.
like they do the like 3 arm raises, and before the ref even calls the match, Dan Severn just lets go and fucking poses, and then the ref calls it.
And Tarzan
It's
Goto just lays there dead for a good minute.
yeah. I like this. I wish they would have got to wrestle a little bit more because like the little bit that we did see was like really good between the two, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked how Tarzan Goto approached this match,
Mm-hmm.
because you could tell, like, I don't know, there was an interesting Tarzan Goto. For those who don't know, was like a very good, just like fundamentalist wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've said, he
He trained
trained
a lot of people.
everybody in FMW. He trained Kudo. He trained all the women over there. He trained everybody in FMW for the most part. Onita takes a lot of credit, but like I said, Onita was more of a mentor than a trainer.
Yeah.
Goto was doing the actual fundamentalist training. You could see that here, that he just really had strong fundamentals, and he could, not go legitimately against Severn, but like it could work and it could
Mm-hmm.
all make sense. It was really cool. I liked that Goto started the match slapping the shit out of Severn, then jumping out of the ring, just
Yeah.
being like, okay, now I'm gonna wait a minute. I'm gonna slap you twice, then I'm gonna jump. And I really appreciated the styles clash there as well, with Goto just being like, I'm gonna use a chair.
It was a nice twist because it's almost like Goto was trying to get him out of his element a bit and see if he could he's not going to out wrestle Severn necessarily, so he's
Yeah.
going to try to like get him off his game and see if he can catch him slipping.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because they, you know, Goto started getting fucked up, and
Hmm.
like I said, the crowd shots, the crowd, the crowd was like, "Oh no, he's getting beat," and then Goto like kind of like slithered out to the outside of the ring, broke open a bottle and tried to stab him, and they just like started brawling, and that was when Goto kind of took the advantage. So I
Hmm.
liked that each of them kind of like had moments of like, this is my domain and I get to beat you up for a bit. Um, but when it kind of really shifted, it was the chair duel. They both had chairs in the ring. They were, hitting each other with the chairs. Goto's flew out. Dan Severs threw his and then hit like a big belly to belly. And that
Hmm.
was when it really was like, okay, Dan Severn beat him in a more hardcore exchange. And then he just started getting, you know, a momentum building and got into that choke. Nasty choke,
Oh
great
yeah, it was
finish
great.
there. Yeah, I really liked how the styles clashed. So that was a lot of fun.
Like I said, I was surprised how well Dan Severn took all of it.
Oh,
Like
100%.
even like usually if something goes haywire, the Gaijins when they do their post match promo, they'll make it aware that something went haywire. Dan Severn was just like, yeah, man, I didn't expect a bottle, but hey, I came through. I fought for my life and I won.
Yeah, no, I think that was pretty badass. After this match, funnily enough, I'm trying to remember if I am correct. I believe I am. After this match, Dan Severn was like, "Hey, I beat you defending my belt. I want the IWA belt now, Goto. So give it here." And it seemed like that was like a singles match that was going to happen. The only problem was uh, Dan Severn did not return for another like 3 years
Mhm.
to IWA Japan, and by then, I believe Goto was in War. He was in Wrestle and
Mm.
Romance. Uh, yeah. So Dan Severn returned in '97 to IWA Japan, and by then Goto was a regular fixture in War, and he
Mhm.
wrestled some Big Japan. He wrestled one date in IWA, and it was just like kind of like as a lone sort of thing.
Mhm.
So by then he was completely out of the picture, just wasn't around, and so they never met again in a wrestling ring, despite this match being like a building block to what was going to be the next match, but Dan Severn didn't return until after Tarzan was out of the company. So I thought that was really funny that they were like, it was this like really heated exchange after the match. Severn like try to help him up and whatnot, and Goto just like started beating the fuck out of him, being like, "Don't touch me." And then Severn challenged him for the IWA belt. Never materialized, but yeah, I thought that was a really cool match. I thought it was a really fun match. I thought it was a really cool exchange afterwards as well, even if it led to absolutely nothing in the end. But it is time for the main event of the evening. It is the King of the Deathmatch tournament finals. No
Mhm.
rope, barbed wire, exploding barbed wire boards, and exploding ring time bomb deathmatch between the one and only Cactus Jack and the god of this shit, Terry Funk.
Damn
Um,
right, buddy.
yeah, when I was younger, I loved this match. I only saw it once or twice, but it was when I was
Younger
quite
you
young.
had to be destroyed.
I was a big deathmatch fan from a way too young of age. I was watching death matches at like 12, maybe 11.
That's fair.
Uh, and that was around the time I watched this. I was a Mick Foley fan before that too. I like Mick Foley was one of my
I think I
favorite.
watched my first Junkasai match in like middle school.
Yeah, see, like I've said before, I was a big CCW fan in
Mhm.
middle school. Um, so I was watching a lot of Tournament of Death, a lot of Danny Havoc, a lot of Sammy Callahan, a lot of Thumbtack Jack, all those types of people. And before that, like a little bit before that, I was a big McFoley fan. I was a big ECW fan because I had like the tapes. I had one one DVD I had growing up was Falls Count Anywhere, the best of hardcore matches. And I just had like,
Oh, yeah, I had that too.
or I had a couple. I had a couple like hardcore match collections that
Mhm.
I owned when I was like 8 or 9. You know what I mean? It was kind of fun. And a lot of that was McFoley, and I loved McFoley. So I went out of my way when I was maybe 12 to watch this match, and I really, really liked it. I don't think that time is very kind to this match, though, for a few reasons. In fact, I thought that like the general like what they were going for was pretty cool.
Mhm.
The barbed wire boards, the exploding barbed wire boards, were shoots. Like those were actual. that was actually bad.
Well, I could tell because they were great. The effect was great, so I could tell it was probably
Yeah,
a shoot.
I mean, very famously, Mick Foley has a picture of his arm, all burnt, like severely burnt, and it's from this, because those boards were actually just like they caught on fire. You could see after they made
Hmm.
contact, they would catch on fire
For
afterwards.
sure.
Not a lot, but
It
like they
still
would
was
actually
fire. You
burn.
could see like an actual flame.
Yeah, exactly. It was disturbing. Like that part of the match was tremendous, but a lot of what else was in this I kind of forgot was kind of, lukewarm. There was the Tiger Jeet Singh run in, which I was like, oh yeah, that happens. Um, the explosion, which I forgot was so bad.
Oh my
Like
god. I
like
I have a note specifically for that.
people give Kenny and Mox a lot of shit,
This was their
rightfully so,
inspiration. This
rightfully
was their
so.
inspiration.
But like, and the thing is that I don't
What
expect the
if
actual ring to explode, but the thing is that it just looked actively bad.
what
Because the thing is,
if
go ahead.
what if Kenny and Mox is like, yeah, let's do the Onita match, and the AEW crew watched this match instead.
And they're like, oh, that's all we had to do. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. But no, that's the thing is that it's like it's not like, well, in most cases that like it goes right. It's not like the ring actually explodes and you actually die.
Yeah, no.
Hot take. But the way that it looks, and especially in like a big arena, like a
But
big
if you want to
stadium,
commit to the bit, that's you.
you can make it look good. Like you can. It
Dude,
doesn't
the
have to like,
Onita Funk spot is
kill
like
you.
probably one of the great, like it's top five at least, one of the greatest deathmatch spots ever.
Oh,
Where the
definitely.
time is running down, and Onita's leaving, but this shit's about to blow up. He goes in, he's smacking Terry, he's trying to get him up, and then he just covers him up, and shit just blows up. Like, come on,
Like
that spot's iconic.
that shit was sick. But here it was more Kenny and Mox than it was Onita and Funk, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um, Plus it was like 10 minutes into the match. Like it was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this by the way, and then we're just gonna keep wrestling. And so it
I
also
imagine
go ahead.
that they were expecting a much bigger explosion, and
Yeah,
then maybe like Cactus would have dropped an elbow in one, but like since nothing happened, they probably had to improvise.
they yeah, and that's what I was gonna say is that kind of fucked up a lot of the rest of the match because from there Terry and the thing is that like this show took a lot out of both these guys.
Hmm.
It was very taxing, very brutal. Really, like you could believe either of them just falling and faint
Yeah,
and losing. But in the context of that main event match, Terry Funk didn't lose. Like he there was nothing decisive that beat him
no,
near the end. He just was on the ground.
yeah,
Um, and I
um,
imagine the reason for that was that the explosion was meant to look really great and he was going to sell it like death. But instead, he just looked up and was like, "What the fuck?" And then Foley had to get in and like, punch him and DDT him and then
mhm.
do an elbow drop. And then Foley actually Funk pushed Foley off a ladder into a bunch of barbed wire, but then Funk, passed out, and Foley just got in and won. And yeah, messy shit near the end, especially. The earlier stuff was a lot of fun, but
Yeah,
I do think it kind of lost itself near the end, way more than I remember it losing itself.
yeah, like it's match starts off hot. Terry takes the bump on the barbed wire exploding board like almost immediately. Funk builds Cactus onto the barbed wire board. I love Terry Funk where he just calls Cactus a son of a bitch while he's jabbing him. um,
Yeah.
then he's slinging him into the barbed wire board again. But Cactus Jack's BFF forever, Tiger Jeet Singh jumps Terry Funk out of nowhere. They toss Terry into the exploding barbed wire board, and like the crowd is hot. I think that's one thing we failed to mention. I'm glad that I have it in my notes. Is just how hot the crowd was as we were
Hmm.
getting toward the explosion. Um, like Tiger Jeet Singh flees the scene. Cactus hits the double arm DDT. He's trying to win before the time runs out. And now the crowd is like rowdy because they're like panicking. It's like, oh my god, time's about to be here. And then Cactus and the ref flee the ring as the countdown starts. Terry tries to flee the ring, but he just falls down in the center of the ring. And then somebody just shoots off some fireworks, and everybody's back in the ring. So
And
that
it's
was it.
fascinating because the crowd was also not fucking with it.
Yeah, no,
That
they
was
were
the
just like,
first time that they were like,
yeah,
like kind of like some of them were heckling, some of them were jeering, but like it was
yeah,
just like it
no,
was
for sure.
not, and that's another thing is that a lot of like deathmatch Japanese deathmatch crowds are hyper uh than non-deathmatch crowds. I mean, you could see that with Jun Kasai matches.
Yeah,
I mean, like Jun Kasai made his debut in New Japan, and it was the greatest crowd New Japan's ever had.
yeah.
Not not
Jun
literally, but
Kasai
it
was
had a
the best
certain vibe
wrestler in
to
New
it.
Japan last year, and he wrestled
Yeah,
2 matches.
exactly. Um, but yeah, so it's like they kind of have like a bit more of a rowdy demeanor, and I feel like they were definitely like, oh, what the fuck, that sucked. Um,
Yeah.
so
And
yeah,
like, and it's funny because like after that, like we said, Cactus gets the ladder, he does the cactus elbow, and then he goes to the top of the ladder, and Terry gets up, shoves him off the ladder into the ropes and the barbed wire board, and then he just falls, and Cactus pins him after taking all of that. And it's just like, okay, all right, man.
Yeah, so this legendary deathmatch that, I still like a lot for its novelty mostly, but like I still thought that there was some really good work, especially in the first half. It definitely is missing something, and not just by like a modern standard. You know what I mean? Like it's not like a matter of like, oh well, it didn't have as much cool shit as
Mm-hmm.
Despy versus Jun Kasai. It just it was just not, it just didn't work the way you want it to, and you can very easily compare it to a match that also happened this year or the year after, which is Combat Toyota versus Megumi Kudo, um, which is probably my favorite death match of all time. That match didn't have much to it. It was very much like a feeling out process, and like the big spots were the big spots, but other than that, it was just a smartly done match. So there was more action in this match, but it felt like it just was kind of all over the place and kind of disjointed, a lot more than I remember it being when I was younger. And for that, it does lose some points for me because yeah, I think I don't know, they had, it's interesting. I don't like, this didn't feel as legendary as I remember it being, which again is a nostalgia thing, but it's also just a thing where it's like I feel like there was more to this, and maybe I'm just thinking of like their random ECW matches and
Yeah, yeah,
kind of just like combining them all together, and it's like, oh, this rivalry is great, which it is, but this wasn't like uh their best showing. I think mainly
no,
because of the messiness near the end with the explosion, with the finish. It was just kind of a mess. But the visuals, a lot of the visuals were very badass. I will give them that.
no, for sure.
After this match, there were two little behind the scenes things that I really liked to close out the VHS tape. Like I said earlier, Mick or Cactus was backstage with Tiger Jeet Singh, and
His
he was
best friend.
talking about, yeah, his bestie forever. And he was talking about how he didn't feel like a winner, how he had to chase Terry Funk into IWA Japan to try to prove that he is legitimately the best deathmatch wrestler, and that Terry Funk is a has been and all that. But he does acknowledge that Terry Funk is the man, and that he feels like a loser because everybody still loves and respects Terry, and he feels like he doesn't have anything. All the while, Tiger Jeet Singh is
Tiger
saying,
G Singh
"You're
is
never gonna
singing.
lose to him again.
Yeah, he's singing
You're
Team
gonna beat him again."
Tomodachi in like 1995.
Team Tomodachi, Team
Uh,
Tomodachi. Yeah, that was Tiger Jeet Singh right there. They actually sampled him, but yeah, that was the show. Bit shorter show for us to review at least because a lot of the matches were kind of just like
and was on
you
like a
go in.
3 days notice.
That too. Yeah, we didn't take a lot of notes because we came up with this a couple days ago. But with that being said, it is time to head on over to the report card. Ooh.
Nice
Um,
little report card, man.
yeah. Uh, so what we usually do is we give our final thoughts on the show, our favorite match of the night, least favorite match of the night, and then we rate the show overall.
And then we
Dave, you
come
want to
to
give
a
that to me?
common consensus grade as well.
Yes, the overall. It will be ranked amongst all of these. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I guess I'll go first.
Hmm.
So my worst match of the night, obviously, was Kamikaze versus the Iceman.
Yep.
And my match of the night, also quite obviously, was Cactus Jack versus Shoji Nakamaki. And I gave this a C plus because while it was fun, there wasn't many matches that really hit the level of, oh, this is really good. Like the main event could have been that, but obviously some stuff forbidden that. And it was still fun, but like really, other than like the clip matches, like the tag match, and then the Cactus and Shoji match, those are like the only two there. I was just like, oh, this is like really really good. Everything else is just fun, so I'm going C plus.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Worst match of the night was Kamikaze versus the Iceman, obviously. Um, it was quite bad. My best match of the night might be Jack and Gordy. I fucking love that match. It was one of the two Cactus Jack matches for sure.
Yeah.
It was either him and Terry Gordy or him and Nakamaki. Him and Funk was probably like,
Mm-hmm.
it of the better matches for sure, but it definitely falls a bit
If
short.
we had an MVP section, it would be Cactus Jack.
Oh, for sure. I think Cactus Jack did a great job on the show, from a work standpoint, especially
Mm-hmm.
because he just really like meshed. Like he found what he needed to do with
Mm-hmm.
each of his opponents, and he did well. He said C plus. I am also gonna give it a. I'm gonna give it a C plus as well. I think, and that spoiler results in a C plus overall. I think that it was a like fun novel show, and there was a lot of really good
Mm-hmm.
matches. But I think every show we've watched has had
Had at least
at
like
least one like
one where it's
great
like great.
match,
Yeah.
and I don't think this one had any of. You can really look back at all of these, and there was, even JD, which we talked about. It had a lot more weaker matches, I would say. Um, but it had Sumi Sakai having some banger matches with,
Mm-hmm.
Yabushita, and there was LCO, and there was just like there was a couple really great matches on each of these shows that we've watched. And I don't think this show had that. It had a couple really really great or really really good matches that I liked a lot, like the Cactus Jack matches. But I do think it just kind of falls short in that sense. So, not as bad as the Dream Come True tournament. Hot take. But the King of the Death match did leave a bit to be desired, especially in the main event. I could have swore it was better, but it wasn't. And I guess that's just a matter of nostalgia in a way. But yeah, I had a good time watching this though.
Oh yeah, I still had a good
I
time.
I read Mick Foley's book when I was young as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I have all the pictures, which are pretty much all from King of the Death match. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are like three pictures from King of the Death match. There's one of him without the ear. There's a couple, like there's just like a bunch of pictures in that book, and I always like looked at that picture of him bloodied with the trophy. Like that is so badass. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So getting to see this entire show for the first time all the way through, I did really enjoy doing that. But I will say there were, ups and downs for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the ups weren't high enough for it to warrant being like a great show, all time, even if it is a legendary show all time. Um, but yeah, I think that's the end of the show. Next time around, we might do the tag draft. We
I think
maybe.
we are 100% going to do it.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have a show in November, but by the end of the year, we will definitely have a tag draft done. Might do it live since drafts kind of work live like that. So we'll figure that out. We
If
will.
there is a show in November, it'll be the draft. It just
Yeah,
depends on how
and
schedules work out.
if there isn't, the draft will be in December because we're
Yeah.
gonna do one more draft before the end of the year, and then we're gonna,
Then we're gonna do the
reset.
Nanai episode.
Oh yeah, we are gonna do a nice special at some point. Yeah, we have some stuff lined up. We're gonna keep on going, and we'll let y'all know what's going on the Twitters and on the yeah, on the Twitters and on the Discord. If you're in the 5 Star Network Discord, jump into that. There is a no limit channel if you want to talk about the show. And there's a comment section on YouTube, so go check that out. Comment how you feel. We have been getting some comments past few months, few episodes. People were
It's pretty
not
sick.
too fond of our Manama Toyota takes, but that's
Well,
okay.
that's on them.
No.
Okay.
The main one was we compared her to Sai Kamatani at one point. Not even like an
I
all
didn't do
time.
that. I just agreed with you.
No, you brought up just like the move spam thing
Oh yeah,
she
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
did.
yeah.
Sai
Okay, no,
Kamatani
yeah, yeah,
adopted
yeah.
that. I never said that Sai Kamatani and Manama Toyota are as good as each other. That's not my take. Um, but that they have similar
Yeah, no.
stylistic
We said
ideas.
similarities. We ain't. Yeah.
Yeah. But people weren't too fond of that.
Well, that's
Whatever.
tough, man.
But we appreciate the conversations down there. So go
Hey,
leave a
man.
like, leave a comment, all
You
that
got
good jazz.
compliments. You got negative things. We accept all of them. We are not
Yeah.
one to just any interactions good. So At least that shows us that people are actually watching this. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed the past 14 episodes. This is Mark's episode 14 of No Limit Wrestling Show. I hope you've enjoyed all of them. And Xavier, you wanna give a few plugs before we head out?
Sure. Go on to my Twitter, Xavierisms with 3 eyes. And just follow me there. I have a link tree in my bio. You can go there, see all my links to all my stuff, my Substack and everything. Should be another episode of the Stardust Press podcast coming out with Ruth. We talked about Limit Break today and her trip to Japan. Me and Beth will be recording on Friday, talking about the Mario Gold Korakuen. So I've been keeping busy. Haven't really had the time to write just because I've been so busy. But that's what I've got going on. And also, you can just find me on Twitter, just hanging out. Like I said, just leave comments, thoughts on the show. If you do watch the show and you are in the Discord, please leave your thoughts, or just anything you want to say regarding the show, any suggestions you may have. We are open to them because it takes us a while usually to agree upon a show. So, and also, if you would like to be on the show, you can contact one of us and we'll make it happen whenever we, knock out the things we have lined up first.
If we like you.
Yeah, if you like it. Yeah,
If you're one of our
that's a big one.
if you're one of our ops, you ain't coming on the show. That's
If we like you,
now
or
somebody's gonna
just
ask to
like,
be on the show, and we're gonna be like, I don't have a problem with them, but
well, if we like you, or if we just don't have an issue with you.
Yeah, if we like you, we'll get you on the show. If we know and like you, we could probably make something happen. But yeah,
Hey, I'm all for getting on people that we do not regularly talk to because I think it's fun to see what they would bring. Like I said, it's like a wrestling book club, what they would bring and why they would bring it, finding out the reason. And even if maybe it's a show they just haven't seen before and they just want to see it, be interesting to see what they think about it in comparison to what we think about it, because obviously everybody takes in wrestling a lot differently.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm realizing on this background there are certain like glares of the sunlight that I couldn't get off, even though it looked like I'm getting nitpicky about that. But follow me on Twitter at xxishiban because I am number 1 on the mic and number 21. Wait, no, I fucked that up. How did I fuck that up? That's like my. Follow me on Twitter at xxishiban because I'm number 21 on the mic, number 1 in your heart. And follow the podcast network at 5 Star Network on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube. All that good jazz. You know what it is. You know how it is. I need you to do something for me. Okay. We've given you all this entertainment. We've talked about the show that definitely happened. I was gonna say lovely show. It was a good show. It was fine. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your uncle, tell your sister, tell your cousin, tell your aunties that you're gonna see at Thanksgiving. Tell the kids that are trick or treating at your house. Send them the link. You know what I mean? Get a QR code of the show and give it to them with all their candy. You know what I mean? I need you to tell everybody that you possibly can to watch the No Limit Wrestling Show, the best show in the biz. Arrivederci, matane.